back to the very beginning. Tell me how you got hired at WRAL.
So I was working at Channel 28, WPTF TV. I'd been there for about 2 years. I was a commercial producer. And we were a little upstart station, and we weren't supposed to be doing very good work. And I apparently caught the eye of Jack Markham, who was the creative services production manager. It was creative services, and he was responsible for the commercial producers and the directors and other producers. And I had done a spot at Channel 28 with Bobby Murray Chevrolet, and Bobby Murray Chevrolet had been WRAL's client for a ton, I don't know, decades. And Channel 28 got that client away, and he came over and said he wanted to know who was doing that. And so I interviewed him, and I started as a commercial producer.
And how long did it take you to move into the promotion area?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I started working, I was intrigued by the promotion department. I don't know, maybe it's because I was a cheerleader growing up or something. I always loved the positive side of the business, and I loved the idea of being able to be creative around producing spots that would intrigue people to watch the station, and being able to put the best face on what the station does. And so I started volunteering for the promotion department. And we had, at that time, there was programming in the afternoon. We had sitcoms in the afternoon, and they were always looking for creative ways to package those sitcoms in new and different ways. Nobody really wanted to do those spots very much. I think everybody wanted to work on news. So I always volunteered to do those kinds of spots. So I was on a volunteer basis for a long time.
Was creativity a big part of the structure at WRAL? Has that always been a priority?
I would say absolutely yes. Creativity has always been honored and sought after. And I think there's been a lot of room for the producing side, the writing and producing side, to experiment and play around with ideas. Certainly in the early days, certainly in the days when the station was enjoying, a lot of popularity, and the ratings were good, and there was lots of room to play. But I think also Jim Goodman sets the tone of innovation, and there was always something that was new that was happening in the station as a whole. So that filtered down to us at the front lines to be creative and innovate in what we did every day.
What was the atmosphere during those early days and everything? Was it very different from Channel 28 when you came over?
It's funny, when I got here, so Channel 28 was, it was a startup station, so it was very scrappy. And when I came here, honestly, it was, it felt like everybody was pretty fat and happy. It was, the station was doing well. The station was doing really well, and I had come from an environment where I was doing a spot. I was doing 2 or 3 or 4 spots a week, and I was doing maybe a spot a week when I got to WRAL. It's probably not something you want to mention, but it was just a, it was a time, it was a lot of fun because the pressure wasn't an intense pressure. We didn't, I don't know, we had probably an hour of news maybe a half an hour of news in the evenings, and a half hour of news in the mornings, and the pace was not nearly what it was at the end of my career, when it was more competitive. So I think there was a lot of room for creativity and having a good time.
Were there pivotal moments or major things that happened during your time here that you think were really important for the company, for WRAL?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think There are many, and there are ones that stand out, and certainly, technology was always a part of the company, from the first helicopter to where we are today. But I think when the tower fell down, and we were sitting in that news conference room and trying to figure out what to do, because the option of not being in the air was something that was unthinkable. We couldn't imagine not being in the air, but the tower had fallen down, and it was a heap of metal buried into the ground. And that we were able to come together and figure out how we could get our transmitter on another tower on Channel 40 in Fayetteville and work that deal, to somehow make that be a deal that Channel 40 would think was a good idea, and be up on the air, I think, within 3 hours. I think that was kind of a defining moment when, we can do anything. We can really do anything. And I don't know that it was a spoken thought, but for me, it was definitely a line in the sand that said this station can accomplish anything. And I think most of those, I think the next one for me was probably the launch of WRL.com, and how the internet had just exploded, and those of us that were working on the website and designing the website, we had to bring people in. We had no clue what we were doing. We had absolutely no idea of what we were doing. And fortunately, we're good at hiring people. We've always been great at finding and attracting really talented people. And what we don't know, we were always able to look out and attract people who did know how to do that. And that was another defining moment. It was when we got that we were going to be delivering our content, not just on this TV signal, but in other formats. And that kind of opened up a whole new world. And then the last one for me was HD TV, high definition. And that's a whole nother line of questioning and stories. But that opened up the world as far as being able to be a producer of content that could go on so many different formats.
You were in charge of promotion and image and messaging for a long time. What set us apart? What was the overriding message that we sent our public?
So I think one moment kind of captures it for me, and it was news coverage after a tornado had taken out North Raleigh. Had really done some devastation to businesses and to a church, and Charlie Gaddy was in the midst of the aftermath. And a quote that we kind of make fun of now, but it is so true to who we are. He interviewed this person and heard their story, and at the very end of it, he said, "Well, I'm just glad you got out okay." And that really encapsulates who we are and have been from the very beginning, and still are. I don't even work here anymore, and I still say we, is we care about people. And so I think at the core of what we did is in doing promotion, we always thought about, are we helping people? Are we, when I picked that soundbite from that story, am I being fair to that person? In 30 seconds, in a 30-second promo or a 15-second promo, you don't get to tell the whole story and both sides of the story, but we had to be fair in those promos. So I think there's just this underlying care and concern about the community that was overt, and it was also under the surface all the time, to be fair and to be concerned and caring about our viewers. And I think the second thing is excellence, is absolutely excellence in quality. We really, there was a time when we openly talked about being the best television station in America. It was something that we thought we could be. It was something we thought we were at times. And when we weren't, it was a standard that we held ourselves up to, is that something that the best television station in America would do? So I think those kind of infused everything that we did.
What would you say about Jim Goodman?
Jim Goodman. Jim Goodman is, okay, let's see if I'll, so Jim Goodman is an innovator, he's creative, he's bold, he's adventuresome, he's a risk taker, he's all those things that most of the community knows about him. He is impractical, unreasonable, pushy, and will not take no for an answer, and it doesn't matter to him if it can't be done. It will be done. And it's a love-hate relationship when you're trying to get those things done that he wants done. And without question, he made me a better everything. Without question, a better human being, a better manager, a better employee. But he's a force. He's a force to be with in a room. He's can I say ADD? I don't know if I can say that.
Okay.
Yeah, being in a meeting with him is like being with, I don't know, a 4-year-old child who's ADD. It's just like 17 different ideas coming from 14 different directions. And somehow they all get woven together by the end of the meeting. But yeah, he's a special person. He's a really special person.
Who else would you say was instrumental, really, in making Capital Broadcasting and WRAL-TV what it is?
So really two people. John Green. John Green John Green was the general manager when I became promotion manager, and I was not an experienced promotion manager. I was not ready for the job, and but he let me do that job because I really, really wanted it, and I was going to work really hard and learn everything I needed to learn to be that. And he was absolutely the toughest manager I've ever had, he made such a difference because he set that quality standard. It had to be good or it wasn't going to air. And his favorite saying was, "Fix it." He had these really terse lips, and he would go, "Fix it." And you don't have to go back and figure out how to fix it. I mean, sometimes he'd give me an idea of what I needed to do to change, but sometimes he didn't. But he never let me do anything that was below a certain standard. And he was a tough manager to work for, but having that kind of training to always take yourself up to a higher standard is invaluable, and I think that held the station to a standard, kind of set the tone. And then I would say Charlie Gaddy, and that because of his sincerity and his authenticity, there's nobody who is more real than Charlie, and real in his caring for people, real in his desire to do a fair, unbiased account of what's happening. And I think the balance, that those two men brought to that community caring connection with people and excellence and holding the standard was a great combination. Great combination for a young person to learn.
We've always been involved in the community, as you are still. Mm-hmm. Are there any particular community projects or efforts that you remember?
There was a period when I think it was probably, there was a period when there was not quite so much pressure there were more avails, there were more opportunities to do public service. And we've always done, see how I want to say this. We did so many projects. I think the thing about the community service projects is that whatever need that was arising at the time would get Jim Goodman's eye, and we would say, we ought to do something about that. And sometimes it would be, I think probably the most exotic one was Tanzania, was when there was the Great Famine that happened in Africa, and it was a time when, I don't know why we went to Tanzania, but it was amazing that we went to Tanzania, and we got a local teacher here, and that teacher went to Tanzania. We got a local, what was it, a doctor and God, I can't remember, was it a teacher, a doctor? I'm sorry, I'm blowing this completely.
No, that's fine.
Oh, a farmer.
Yep.
It was a teacher, a farmer, and I don't know if I'm right about the doctor or not. And we took them to Tanzania and got their perspective from the North Carolina perspective on what's happening in Tanzania and what we could do to help, these people. Another one of those moments of why are we there, but because we can do this. Another when we connected with our sister city in England, Plymouth was our sister city. Something that the city was doing at the time was, connecting with they were identifying their sister cities in other parts of the world. And so we did a live broadcast from Plymouth, England, again, because we could. And then there was some beautiful spots that we did for Black History Month. And when we did reenactments of historical moments in North Carolina with prominent African Americans in North Carolina, and did a series of those for several years that were, beautifully shot, and I think an example of our appreciation for a whole community. And then I think my favorite's Coats for the Children. That was a project that I was involved in launching. Marion Bell and I, Marion Bell's in the sales department, and she was looking for a project that could be sponsored, and I was looking for something that was going to, work in the community, and Coats for the Children was born, and that project is still going, how many years later, is a testament to WREL's strength. When we ask for money, people give the money, and we, give 100% of it to the organization that we're raising the money for. There was another, what was that? It'll come back to me. Keep asking me questions.
Fun moments, funny things that happened either off air, on air, or whatever. What makes you laugh as you look back?
Definitely control room moments. This place is a funny place. People are funny. There's a lot of pressure. There's that much pressure, you got to laugh about stuff, because if you took it all very seriously, you would seriously have a heart attack at least once a week. And so I think there's a lot of fun in the environment because of the pressure. I think that we had a director. His name was Bud Brown, and Bud was he was a great director. He was one of the best ones we've had, and he was brutal with the crew, and he had a very high standard for producing a newscast, and wanted the crew to, when he called the shot, he wanted the shot to be there. And he would often lean into the mic when he was trying to get a shot set up and he would lean in and he would say, pan right, no, no, other right. Because, you know, you frequently don't right, left. The camera people can get challenged by that, especially under the pressure of a director who is trying to get them to get the shot. And the other thing he was often fond of saying was, could we please remove the dead body behind camera 2? It's when somebody was not being responsive enough. So there's a lot of, I think a lot of moments like that. And I think in this environment, when you're working in promotion, when we're shooting anchors for promos, and we're, you know, making sure their hair is right and their makeup is right and getting them mic'd up, and it's kind of this intimate environment, and you get to share these moments, these behind-the-scenes moments with anchors. You know, we shot anchors in their homes and with their families and with their dogs, and you know, I think one of the best spots, we did a Christmas spot, a series of Christmas spots with everybody with their dogs. And I see David Crabtree has, is it an English bulldog? An English bulldog. And I, you know, they kind of look alike. I mean, you know, it's what they say about that's true. And what does Deborah had? Deborah had these cute little, no big setters, or yeah, like a lab or a setter golden retriever. I mean, it looked just like Deborah, you know. So there are lots of moments when you're with the anchors, when you're off camera, that you get to know who they are as human beings, and those are fun moments.
In wrapping up, anything that you'd just like to say or talk about, or you know, what's left out, if you wanted to kind of reach a conclusion?
I think I'd say the Hall of Fame was a really hard thing for me to come up with,
Right.
because there's so many
Yeah, if
people.
you had to pick 2 or 3 people for the CBC Hall of Fame, who would that be?
You know, and maybe this will kind of encapsulate that better. It would definitely be Charlie Gaddy for his sincerity and his authenticity. It would be Jim Goodman because of his 2 things: for his innovation and his genuine concern for the community. And it would be John Green for his tough-minded adherence to excellence. And then I'd throw one more in there, and that would be Jay Jennings. And there are lots of others, but Jay Jennings, for the longest time, has set the bar for photography and storytelling. And for all of us who were producing and on the ground, you know, Jay has been a standard to live up to day in and day out.
That's great.